Cheese. Tomarcita, sí.
The death of little Joseph Martinez has sent shockwaves through the community as many try to come to grips and maybe even cope with that tragedy.
A suitcase left a house at midnight. A 22-year-old man dragged it to a car while his own father watched from a bedroom window. He drove away. He came back 3 hours later without the suitcase. He gave back the car keys. He left again. He came back Monday morning. He sat with his family. And when they asked him where the 3-year-old was, he told them himself. Before the police. Before an investigation. Before anyone in authority had a single piece of evidence pointing at him. He sat in that house, and he told his own family what he had done with his son. Welcome to Crime Cipher. We decode the cases the headlines summarize and the truth the system leaves behind. Subscribe if you are new here, because tonight we are telling you the story of a 3-year-old boy described by the people who loved him as full of energy and personality and amazing. A little boy who was taken from his home on a Saturday night by the one person in his life who was supposed to keep him safe, and the man who came back home twice without him and then led police to a river. Here is the detail that this case will never be able to move past. Saul Martinez did not run. He did not flee. He did not disappear into the night with whatever head start the hours between Saturday midnight and Monday morning could have given him. He came home. He sat with his family. And when they confronted him, he confessed before law enforcement had a single piece of evidence. That choice, to come home, to sit, to wait, to tell his own family first, is the most condemning detail in this entire case. But before we get to what he told them, you need to know who was in that suitcase. Joseph Martinez was 3 years old. That is the only age that matters in this case, not 22. 3. A little boy who had been in his grandfather's home on Southbridge Street in Memphis, Tennessee for about 3 weeks in the physical custody of his father Saul Martinez, along with another child. 3 weeks. Long enough to settle into a space. Long enough to know the rooms. Long enough for the people around him to watch him move through the world the way 3-year-olds move through the world. With energy, with personality, with the specific loudness of a child who has not yet learned to be quiet about who he is. Chelsea Jones, a friend of Joseph's grandmother, stood in front of cameras after his body was found and said everything the script needs to say about who Joseph Martinez was. She said he was great. She said he was a 3-year-old full of energy and personality. She said he was amazing. She said he was an amazing little boy. Those 4 sentences are not a eulogy reaching for something kind to say about someone nobody knew well. Those are the words of someone who had watched this child exist up close and was trying to find language large enough to hold what had been taken. He was 3 years old. He did not have enemies. He did not have disputes. He did not have a history or a record or a conflict with anyone on earth that could produce a reason for what happened to him on Saturday night. He had a father. He had a grandfather. He had a mother who called police Sunday morning because the person who had taken her son without permission had not brought him back. He had people who loved him. And he had one person in his life who made a decision on a Saturday night that reduced everything Joseph Martinez was and everything he was going to become to a brown suitcase in a wooded area near the Wolf River Harbor in downtown Memphis. That is who Joseph Martinez was. 3 years old. Full of energy and personality. Amazing. And gone because the person who was supposed to protect him from everything the world could do to him decided instead to be the thing the world did to him. The night of Saturday, July 19, 2026, started with a custody dispute. Joseph Martinez's mother had reported that Saul Martinez had taken the child from the home on Southbridge Street without permission. She told police she had last seen them together the day prior. That missing person call would be reclassified by Monday morning. But on Saturday night, none of that had happened yet. On Saturday night, it was just a father who had taken a child somewhere without telling the mother where they were going. What happened inside that house on Southbridge Street in the hours before midnight is not fully confirmed by investigators publicly. What is confirmed is what Saul Martinez's father Octavio witnessed from that point forward. Around midnight, Saul entered his father's room and asked for money. He took his car keys without permission. Octavio watched his son drag a large brown suitcase to the car and place it in the front passenger seat. He watched Saul drive away. That image. A 22-year-old man placing a large suitcase in the passenger seat of a car at midnight while his own father watches from a bedroom. That is the image this case is built around. Because Octavio did not yet know what was in that suitcase. But by the time his son came back, he would. Saul Martinez returned around 3 a.m. He gave back the car keys. He left again in his own vehicle. He did not have Joseph with him. He did not have the suitcase with him. He came back Monday morning. Still no Joseph. Family members confronted him. And Saul Martinez, 22 years old, sitting in the same house where he had taken a car at midnight and driven away with a brown suitcase in the passenger seat, told his own family that he had left the child's body in the river. Not a lawyer, not a police officer, not anyone with authority over him or legal power to compel a confession. His family. He sat with his family and he told them himself. Memphis police investigators developed information pointing to the 100 block of North Front Street. Officers responded to the area. Saul Martinez allegedly pointed out a wooded section connected to the Wolf River Harbor near 2nd Street and Plum Avenue. Police located the brown suitcase in that wooded area. Joseph Martinez's remains were inside. A 3-year-old boy in a brown suitcase in a cove along the Wolf River in downtown Memphis. That is where his father left him. Saul Martinez was taken into custody. At the Homicide Division, he waived his rights. He confessed to killing his son. He confessed to disposing of the body in the suitcase near the Wolf River. He had already told his family. Now he told the police. 2 confessions. Zero remorse visible to anyone in that room or that courtroom in the days that followed. Memphis Police Department officially classified the case as a homicide on Monday morning. The investigation did not require weeks of detective work or surveillance footage or forensic analysis to produce an arrest. Saul Martinez had already done the work for them. He told his family. He led officers to the river. He waived his rights and confessed at the Homicide Division. The case that prosecutors are now building against him is built largely on his own words delivered voluntarily to 2 separate audiences before anyone compelled him to say anything. Saul Martinez, 22 years old, has been charged with first-degree murder in perpetration of a felony, to wit aggravated child abuse, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. 5 charges. Every one of them carrying the weight of what was found in that brown suitcase near the Wolf River Harbor. The abuse of a corpse charge alone tells you something about the specific and deliberate nature of what investigators believe happened to Joseph Martinez beyond the act of killing him. The tampering with evidence charge tells you that what Saul Martinez did with that suitcase was not a panicked decision made in a moment of shock. It was a choice, a calculated choice about what to do next. No official motive has been confirmed by Memphis police. The custody dispute context exists in the public record, but prosecutors have not publicly connected a specific motive to the killing. What they have connected is a 22-year-old man to a dead 3-year-old in a suitcase in a river. And that connection was made by the 22-year-old man himself. Saul Martinez appeared in court for his bond hearing with a blank expression. Not grief, not visible distress, not the face of someone processing the weight of what they had done. A blank expression. When the judge asked if he had hired an attorney or needed one appointed, Martinez appeared hesitant. The judge asked directly, "Have you hired an attorney, or can I have you appointed an attorney? You are not sure, or are you nervous?" That exchange in a Memphis courtroom is the final piece of the psychological picture this case produces. A man who confessed voluntarily to his family, who confessed voluntarily to police, who led officers to his son's body, standing in front of a judge with a blank expression, unable to answer a straightforward question about legal representation. The judge denied bond. Then the judge said something else, something that now sits over every future court date in this case. Since Saul Martinez is charged with first-degree murder, prosecutors can seek the death penalty. That information was delivered to a 22-year-old man standing in a Memphis courtroom with a blank expression, the same blank expression he had walked in with. The death penalty. Stated plainly by a judge to a man who 2 days earlier had dragged a brown suitcase to a car at midnight while his father watched from a bedroom window. Joseph Martinez was 3 years old, full of energy and personality. Amazing. Those were Chelsea Jones's words, and they are the words this case needs to end on because they are the most complete description of what was taken on that Saturday night in Memphis. Not a statistic, not a case number, not a name on a charging document. A 3-year-old who was full of energy and personality and amazing. A little boy who had been in his grandfather's house for 3 weeks. a child who had a mother who called police when his father did not bring him home. Saul Martinez made a series of choices on the night of Saturday, July 19th into Monday, July 21st, 2026. He chose to take Joseph without permission. He chose to drag a suitcase to a car at midnight. He chose to come back at 3 a.m. and return the car keys. He chose to come back Monday morning without his son. He chose to tell his family what he had done. He chose to lead police to the river. He chose to waive his rights and confess. At no point in that sequence did Saul Martinez make a choice that pointed away from what he had done. Every choice pointed directly at it. And every choice is now part of a court record that prosecutors can seek the death penalty from. There is no mystery in this case. There is no unanswered question about who did this, or where Joseph was, or what happened to him. The answers were provided by the person responsible before investigators had to find them. What this case leaves behind is not a question. It is a weight. The specific and unbearable weight of a 3-year-old who deserved every single day of the life he was not allowed to live. And the 22-year-old who stood in a courtroom with a blank expression while a judge explained the consequences of taking it from him. If you want to follow this case with us, subscribe to Crime Cipher and turn on notifications, because when there is a court date, a plea, or a verdict in the case of Saul Martinez, we will be right here. Leave a comment with Joseph Martinez, his mother, and his grandmother in your thoughts. Share this video so that Joseph Martinez is remembered as more than a headline about a suitcase near a river in Memphis, Tennessee. And we will see you on the next case.